Hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with crank.com and with that metalstation.com. And tonight, wherever the bloody hell you are in the world, it is with great pleasure that I'm having a chat with Wil Martin, vocalist for Earshot, who have been around for, coming up over 20 years. It's been 20 years since the Letting Go album that came out in 2002. You've got a couple of new singles, You Plus I. You've redone The Tongue Tied, which is an unplugged killer version off the 2 album. Cheers for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to make it to the Australian radio waves. It's great.
No worries, man. Absolute pleasure, dude. So as I just briefly mentioned in the intro there, it's been 20 years since your debut album, Letting Go, I think come out 2002 to 2022 now, man. It's been a bit of a crazy couple of years, but how's that feel to you, like getting 20 years and looking back on your career so far with Earshot?
Man, I mean, on one hand, it feels great. I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to go this long. And then on the other hand, I feel I'm starting to feel a little Ozzy Osbourne-ish in age, but but it's been good, man. It's been a fun ride so far.
Yeah, it does get a little like that. It must be exciting for you to, have these moments where it's kind of Earshot has kind of gone down and then come back again. But then now you've got a whole new lineup. You've got Aaron Fink off of Breaking Benjamin. You've got John in there. You got Mike. You've got Andy. It must be good for you to come back at Earshot with a whole new set of eyes, ears, and a reinvigoration for the project.
It is, and it's really, I would most definitely say that it's contributed a lot, to what we're doing now. And, I think people, will be able to hear that, particularly our older fans, that have kind of, watched the evolution of this band. And I think, the current lineup pretty well reflects that.
Yeah, it definitely does. Can you tell me a little bit about the guys you got on board and kind of, how that all happened and that side of things?
So Andy, one of the guitar players, with a rhythm guitar player, I've known for a long time, just through mutual friends is how we met. And we just always stayed in touch. And I don't remember when it was, but he had sent me a couple of song ideas a while back, and we kind of messed around with some stuff. And then I had done a little acoustic tour at one point for my acoustic side project called the Wil Martin Project, and I needed another guitar player to sort of accompany on these dates. And so he flew out and he did about a week's worth of dates with me, and then later on, he introduced me to Mikey, who's our current drummer, and we, got a couple of show offers. So we, pretty quickly, threw some songs together in a set. We had a couple of other different guys at that time. This is in 2018 now, I think. A couple of other guys that helped us out just for the time being. But it was in 2019 when we got a few more show offers, and that's when I had gotten a text from Aaron, actually, and he had asked me if I was interested in recording on a song or two on a solo album that he was working on. And I, of course, said, sure, set it down, I'll take a listen to it. And then it sort of occurred to me at that moment, to see if this might be something that he'd want to partner up with me on. And so I texted him right back, and of course we talked the same day or the next day, and he was in, without really much hesitation. We've both respected each other, our work that we've done in our respective bands. And then out of that, he introduced John to us, which John's worked on some projects of Aaron's over the years, and John's a really great guy and a really, really great musician as well. So that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of how it all came together, and where everybody kind of came from.
Yeah, so when you started working together, you had that Uninvited track, I think was the Alanis Morissette cover, I believe, was one of the first kind of tracks you done together. Then you jumped over, and the original track, Been a Long Time, come out in 2021. It must have been good for one, making this music, but also making original music with a new lineup as well.
Yeah, the Alanis Morissette cover came about because before the pandemic, we had planned on all getting together and writing in the studio and putting down some ideas, but the pandemic happened, and right at the beginning of it, the plans got iced, and that's when I decided, well, maybe we should, try using the technology that's available to us.
Yep.
And see if we can, still record, since we all live in different places. So Aaron suggested the Alanis Morissette Uninvited track, and he sent me over a little sample that he recorded on his guitar, and then I liked that, and then he went ahead and he recorded literally everything without any drums or anything. He recorded the entire music bed, which I still to this day think is pretty amazing that he was able to conjure that up without anything else, but he did, and it sounded great. And that was really the first song that we, not only put together as a band and recorded as a band, but it was the first song where we learned how to utilize technology,
yep.
right, to put these songs together, which was good that we did, because as you know, we went into the black hole for a couple of years there with all the restrictions and stuff. So it definitely was timely for sure. But the song came out great. Love it.
Yeah. Like you're mentioning, you hit the nail right on the head there. Like, COVID has a lot of negatives on our music scene, and we know it's going to take us quite a few years to come back from this, especially the live music industry. But bands like yourself were able to use the technology and learn to be able to work across the country. And I've spoken to people that have been across the globe and still being able to make music together, despite being able to not play together in a studio somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, and what was that like? Was that easy for you to get your head around all that, or was that something that took a little bit to get used to? Because some people they just hit to it like a duck to water, but other people are like, man, it's a pain in the ass, and I can't wait to get actually playing with my mates again. I fucking hated it.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, all the records that we've recorded, I've always recorded my vocals in my own studio at home by myself.
Yep.
So it was pretty easy for me. And I think everyone has their own little home studio thing. But I know that Aaron in particular, he prefers, everyone being in a studio together. He likes the camaraderie, and he likes, being in a real studio, and that, that whole feeling, that whole vibe of being there to get work done and focused. I like that too.
Yep.
I can go either way though. So I was fine. We all were able to do it. And I think that I, again, could go either way, but I think for some of the other guys, they definitely felt like it was more of a pain in the ass, and do prefer being in the typical recording studio and doing it that way.
Yeah, they both have their positives and negatives. Can you tell me about the track that came out last year, Been a Long Time?
Yeah, so that was a song that I had written maybe a year and a half or so before we decided to put it out. And it was one of those songs that I had sort of finished, but kind of backburnered it and forgot about it until I came across it, and I went, this song really fits kind of what is happening in the world right now. With everyone feeling like, and being isolated from one another. And that's what the song was originally written about. So I didn't go back and, rewrite any lyrics, to fit that narrative. That's just the way that the song was before any of this happened. So I just felt like it was sort of ironic that I have this song, in the bag. And so we went ahead and finished. I think we had some guitar stuff that we had to redo and maybe some drum stuff. But so that's what the song was about. It was about, all of the, just bringing awareness to the fact that a lot of the restrictions, although they were designed to keep everybody healthy and safe, there's, a big faction of people out there that, were suffering as a result from being isolated. And I just felt like it was something that needed to be brought to everyone's attention.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's touching on that one point there where everyone's sitting in isolation. I do want to kind of talk about the live scene at the moment as it kind of kicks off again. Everyone spent those last couple of years at isolation going, you can't go to shows, you can't see music, you can't do this. Yeah. I'm hoping that everybody really gets out and gets amongst the music industry, because we've kind of suffered, and we kind of need to get out amongst it, and people kind of get over that little bit of fear. And I know some people will have that going forward, and getting back into the live music scene and catching bands like yourself live and really supporting the scene as it goes forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's gonna take a little bit for people to feel comfortable and confident enough with, getting back out and getting into crowds of people. And there's been a lot of discussion and articles and debates about what the best way forward is. And you have, as there's two sides. It's become politicized as well. There's a lot of conflicting information that we've all been taking in over the last couple of years. And I think when I talk to people, I think the toughest part for people is they're trying to figure out who's right and who they should listen to and who they shouldn't listen to. And I guess unfortunately it's really gonna just take a leap of faith, to get back out there. And it's gonna be tougher for some than it is for others. But it sure is, become sort of a big mess. But hopefully we can all get through it all together.
Yeah, well, I'm really optimistic about the scene as we're going forward again. I just went to a show in Adelaide over the weekend, like a Churches of Steel. It's like a 12-hour thrash kind of festival thing put on down there. It was unreal, dude. But there was people getting up, and then there was people standing around, and we're all kind of unsure, like, what do you bloody do with these things? They're telling you not to sing and dance. You stand there and you're like kind of bop your head to the shows. Yeah. But it was really, really great for me to be able to get to these shows and go along, even if you can't sing and dance, mask up, whatever the hell it bloody is. If I can stand in front and be yelled at by some dudes on stage and listen to some music, I'm down with that. Yeah. Sign me up,
Yeah, for sure. Something's better than nothing, right?
Exactly. How's the live scene going over there for you guys? Have you got anything on the go or planned, or what's it looking like over your way, mate?
Well, we don't have any shows on the books quite yet. Yep. We've kind of been sitting back a little bit, trying to see what's going to shake out. We've had these kind of false starts before where it's like, all right, we're going to be good. And then it's not, and then it is, and then it's not. So, I mean, like you said, it looks like, we're sort of, as a society, we're starting to turn a corner, but, so we might, I think at best, or at worst, I should say, is we're going to probably do maybe some shows here and there, some fly dates, and then probably, try to pick it up next year is likely what it's looking like. But we'll never know. I mean, things could change quick, and we might have something going on in the summer or fall. It just all depends.
Yeah, I know exactly where that lies with a lot of bands at the moment. Can you tell me about the latest single for you guys, You Plus I? It was kind of like a double single there. You've redone the Tongue Tied, which is Unplugged, an absolutely amazing reimagined version, man. But first off, can you tell me about the You Plus I, then jump into the Tongue Tied version?
Yep. So You and I was a song, one of the first songs actually, that we started sort of working on when Aaron first came to the band. It was really just kind of an idea then. Um, and then not too long ago, we decided to really take that song on. We really, listening back to it after not hearing it for a while, listening to it with sort of fresh ears, we, realized, what a great song it was. And so we went ahead and finished it, and we finished it. And then we were, kind of trying to mull over when we wanted to release it. And finally I had this great idea, because it is I'm pretty sure it's one of the only positive love songs or songs about relationships that I've ever written lyrically. And so I immediately, it just came to my mind sometime that it should be on Valentine's Day. And so we did that. And then I kind of went back and forth on that, because I thought, well, not everybody, appreciates or likes Valentine's Day. So then that's what brought me to this other idea of, sort of recording something that was the antithesis of what You and I was about. And Tongue Tied was a song that came up, because that was a song that, when I first met Andy a while back, he had sent me an acoustic recording on an acoustic guitar on his phone. And I remember, just for yucks, I recorded a scratch vocal on it, and it actually sounded pretty good. So we quickly recorded that song. I think we spent like maybe 2 or 3 weeks recording that song, passing it around, to the internet, to each other to do. But it came out really great. And so that's how it sort of evolved into this, it's kind of like, I wanted it to feel like a B-side, when you used to buy tapes and CDs, there was a B-side, right? So it was really designed for that kind of effect. It was the B-side to You and I.
Yeah, I remember the old B-sides with the tape cassettes. The tape cassettes have even come back now, Will. It's crazy, man. Like, I've started buying tape cassettes again, but I'm never going to play them. But I've got a little collection of tape cassettes now. It's really, really crazy, man.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I had a good friend of mine that loves buying music, and has been into music for years. He's like, "Oh, you got to come out with cassette tapes." And I'm going, why would I want to invest money like producing cassette tapes? Like, I get it, but the problem is nobody owns a cassette player anymore, I don't think. But I'm sure there are some people out there that do, but the vast majority of people do not own cassette tape players. So it's like, what's the use? It's just spinning your wheels. I mean, we're in a streaming world now, and I don't think it's ever going to turn back.
Well, it's crazy, isn't it? You probably even notice it like through your career now, the way the music industry has gone from, I know us metalheads and people in the rock and punk, we're still crazy about buying merch and physicals and even cassettes that we'll never play again. It must be like crazy for you to see the way the music industry has kind of pivoted almost towards these streaming cycles, and people are forgetting about buying physicals and buying whole albums, and what a joy it is to listen to a whole album, or go down and buy a CD from the store, or a record, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, it was definitely, that's the one thing that I miss about physical media.
Yeah.
Is that experience of going into a record store and you're just surrounded, like literally surrounded by physical music, right? And just shelves and shelves of music. And I do miss that. At the same time, I remember, I think it was back in 2002, maybe, yeah, it was 2002. I had I can't remember who made it, but it looked like a CD player, like a portable CD player, but it was actually an MP3 player.
Yep.
And, it's Creative Labs. That's who made it. So, and I'm a real tech nerd junkie. So I had read about this MP3 player, and it was supposed to, hold music digitally, and you didn't have to carry on physical. So I bought one. I think it was like $300 and something. It was ridiculous. But I bought it, and it only held 30 30 MP3s. That's how little the disc space was on it. But so I loaded some stuff off some CDs, and I remember I brought it on the road, and my band and everybody were like, what the hell is that? And I was like, you got to check this out. And they were putting the headphones, and they're like, skipping around and like, wow, this sounds really great. And we were A/Bing it with, portable CD players. And
yep.
And then it was maybe 6-7 months later when Apple announced their very first iPod, and I was first in line, and I went, and it looked like this little hospital device. In fact, I think when I got back to my bus, because we were on tour at the time, I got back with it, and I think somebody asked me, was I okay? And I said, I'm fine. What do you mean? You have like a medical device? Like, is something they monitoring you for something? I went, no. I go, this is a new Apple's version of the MP3 player, except this one held 500 songs. So, or maybe it's 500. Yeah, it was 500 songs. It was like 5 gigabytes or something. And again, like at that moment, I knew that it was only going to be a matter of time before the whole world was going to switch to this, because why wouldn't it? Like with me and the whole band, like we would go on tours and we'd bring out, 50 CDs or 100 CDs each, and then we'd lose them, or somebody wouldn't put it back, or they get scratched or lost or broken. And wow, here's this MP3 player, and you're not going to lose any of your CDs. You don't have to keep track of one thing. And so it was very convenient. The music sounded great, and I just knew it was going to be a matter of time before it happened. I just think that the music industry hasn't done a very good job. They're catching up slowly, but they've done a really poor job of wrapping their arms around it and figuring out, really how to make it work.
Yeah.
And they've been playing catch up this whole time. And they're still trying to figure it out. But I think streaming is great. I think that, more people are able to access music that way, and different kinds of music that they wouldn't have otherwise either been able to access or known about. At the same time, it makes it harder for bands, not just my band, but all bands. It makes it harder for fans of ours, for example, to know when we have new music out, because they're being inundated with so much music.
Oh yeah.
That it's almost overload. So, it's a double-edged sword.
Exactly. There's so many positives. Like you said, you can sit there and people can come across your music, but then it gets lost in the noise of all the other bands. And then some of these media outlets are only focusing on, like, you know what I mean? Like the 10 top bands of that scene, and not covering a lot more. But then you're able to get your music across to more media across the world. Like we're sitting here, I'm over here and South Australia, and you're over there in the US, and we're having a chat about Earshot. So there is so many positives and negatives. And you're right, if maybe the music industry had got behind it a little bit more, the only thing I feel is there needs to be more support for the artist. I feel sometimes the artists get forgotten and some in it all too, and the way they're looked after. I think some of the big streaming cycles need to get behind and kind of pay their artists what they're worth and what they're making as well.
Well, right. And I mean, take, for example, what I think is by far and away our biggest streaming song, and Wait, which was off our second album too as well. Just on Spotify alone, that song has been streamed over 25 million times.
Nice.
So back, when music was being sold with CDs or tape, you used to have to either buy the record or buy the single.
Yep.
Right. So that means, 25 million streams, 25 million copies. That's a lot of money, but we're not making anywhere near the money that we would have made had we sold 25 million. It's very, very, very different. And I think that's, something that most people don't realize or understand, nor, would you expect them to. Their job is to listen to music, not know the ins and outs of the business. But, artists make very, very little from streaming. And you go, well, 25 million streams, you got to be living in a mansion. 25 million streams doesn't equate to that much money. Not even $100,000. I mean, it's very, very little.
By the time
Very
you
little.
pay for recording costs, and you know, this is a recording costs and everything else, it's not much left, and it's probably got enough to buy a new guitar and maybe a case of beer or something like that. You know what I mean? It's really not a great deal. That's why it's important for people. Like if you're over there, Spotify, you know, you're cranking up Earshot, you're loving it, go over and also buy their music, buy some merch, you catch them on the road when they're playing, because it means so much. Every artist I've spoken to said, you know, when someone goes over and buys that album or they're buying a shirt and they're really showing their support, it means so much to the band as well.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, all of that definitely helps, since that's really, you know, any kind of revenue, it comes from that, from touring, merch. It doesn't come from streaming. But, you know, I mean, listen, that's not to diminish, know, the people that stream music, because I mean, that also helps things. You know, for example, when you know, the industry sees a song from an artist getting a lot of attention from streaming, well, then that causes them to pull the trigger on other things, whether it's, you know, booking a band at a venue in a certain city or country. Yeah, exactly. So all of that does help. So not to take away from it, but yes.
No, exactly. Will, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. I've really enjoyed chatting to you about Earshot, your latest singles, man. Do you have any last words, shout outs, or thank yous you'd like to add in there?
Well, you know, get back out there. Hopefully everybody will get back out there soon and start enjoying some music again. And, you know, I hope everyone listening, you know, stays healthy and well, and hopefully the world will become a nicer place sooner rather than later.
Awesome. Will, thank you so much. Everyone grab some Earshot, chuck it in the stereos. The neighbors are going to want to hear this as well. Cheers, mate. You have yourself a lovely evening, and thanks for taking the time to have a chat with that metal station and Crank.
You too, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, mate. You take it easy, eh?
Bye-bye.